there's an inefficiency or a friction in the marketplace. An inefficiency and friction in the marketplace, no matter what the market is, costs people money.
We have right here John Jacobs with the chairman of Vetify and formerly the NASDAQ and a slew of other things.
Sure.
Over at Georgetown University doing some education around it. And so thanks for stopping by.
That's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm just so excited to be here. And this is a passion for me now. So
You've been in the education piece a little bit. You've also been on the cutting edge of finance and technology. I think one of our first conversations, you ran through technology and finance and what's been revolutionary today, what seems controversial today, and is it's different today. 20 years ago there was things that were controversial that
Sure.
are now that are no normal. Can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, absolutely. And so people ask me, John, you spent 33 years in NASDAQ and then you switched to academia and we're running the Center for Financial Markets and Policy at Georgetown. But your focus has been on blockchain, DLT, and crypto. Why? And I said, and it's absolutely clear as a bell. NASDAQ was a disruptive technology. When NASDAQ was formed, it was the first and only electronic market in the world. Every market in the world now is electronic. So it was a disruptive technology. And that's what I look at DLT. And the reason disruptive technologies exist and work, not for their own sake, but because there's an inefficiency or a friction in the marketplace. An inefficiency and friction in the marketplace, no matter what the market is, costs people money. It makes things move slower and less efficiently. So NASDAQ organized financial markets for stocks, and next thing you know, the whole world followed, and now all stock markets are electronic, and they are faster, cheaper, much better. No one would argue that you may not like the price of what you buy in the stock market, but nobody can argue the stock markets work phenomenally well. And I look at DLT and I see the exact same thing is happening here. There are inefficiencies in payments, in crypto, in settlement, in custody, and so many different areas that DLT and crypto are going to solve those problems and take uncertainty out of the marketplace. So I'm so passionate about this new disruptive technology that's not new anymore, and it's still disruptive. It's just going to change the world.
So you mentioned something a little bit earlier, the friction and the inefficiencies. That's really,
Yes.
if you had to boil it down to two
Exactly.
words that these are designed to solve
Absolutely.
on the technology side, it's inefficiency and friction.
Right. Try to wire money from a bank in the US to a bank in the UK. Costs a fortune, takes time, doesn't need to be. You can use a token solution, and there's dozens of them here. People are talking about, there's lots of different ways to do that. When I started this industry, they just moved in stocks, they just moved from 5-day settlement to 3, and that was revolutionary. The key there was when you settle your trade in 3 days instead of 5, you now have certainty that your trade went through. You can recommit your capital to the market. Then they went from 3 to 2, and they're eventually going to try to go from 2 to 1 May of next year. Mm-hmm. That's using old technology, but still what it's doing is it's freeing up capital, people recommitting it, they feel certain, there's less risk, better price discovery, better liquidity for stocks. All that can happen for other asset classes using DLT. So it is going to revolutionize how we transact business in digital assets.
Now, when you started, you talk about this revolution, it's going to revolutionize different industries. And when the NASDAQ came along, was it something that was universally accepted? Was there friction on the state level? Was there friction with regulators? What was it? Tell us about it.
There was a ton of friction, and also not a lot of fans. And back then, 1971, and I'm old, but I'm not that old. But when they launched NASDAQ, the states had a lot more power in securities than they did today. There's been over time. So not only did NASDAQ have to work its way through the federal regulatory structure, they had to work state by state by state with blue sky laws, they're called in the securities industry, blue sky laws, to get acceptance and so on. And it was a long slug, and they had to do it. It took a lot of work to do. And that's why, and that took longer. And through no fault of the states, but that's what their mandate. I think some of the work you guys are doing and taking this leadership position, with the TBC taking a leadership position, that they're driving smart regulatory and policy across the industry that will make everyone's life easier, better, faster adoption of DLT. And there's a truism in life that's been around since the first people were around. Technology always moves faster than regulation and policy. I don't care how far back you go in mankind's history. We had cars long before we had driver's licenses and traffic lights. People came out with drones before the FAA ruled on what is privacy and what's not privacy and where can you fly and this, that, and the other. Name the technology and you'll know that it's been out there faster than the policy. That's normal. What you want is policy to keep up. And look at this. The blockchain white paper, the Bitcoin from Satoshi back in 2008, 2009 came out. We're only 14 years old as an industry, but look at the thousands and thousands of apps that have already been built. Yeah, the regulators can't keep up, but they're trying and they will. And as we get that regulatory certainty, we get those guardrails in line, everybody will be happier. People in this industry aren't saying, don't regulate us. They're saying, regulate us in a smart fashion so we can deliver programs, products, and servers to consumers and businesses and organizations across the board. And so, yeah, so I give credit to TBC for leading that way by trying to keep the states on the same page, because what you don't want is a mishmash of state regulation and federal regulation and then global regulation and working to build, and this summit, the North American Blockchain Summit, is a huge step in harmonizing the states and the federal government to get a set of smart regulation.
No, it really is. You mentioned trying to get the states to export policy and to work together, rather than combat each other. And I think that that's something that we're certainly trying to do is how do you get everyone under one banner and figure out what is the solution to making things less, making things more efficient, rather than bickering about. There's a lot of stuff that you can focus on rather than bickering with each other. There's a lot of problems.
Right. And I'm from Maryland. The last thing we want is Texas and Maryland fighting when Texas and Maryland should be fighting against Europe in order to attract the innovators and the entrepreneurs into the space. So what we're saying is from that purely a national perspective, we need to be working together and driving the industry forward. The reason why the U.S. financial markets are the envy of the world is because we have pulled together, and because the federal and state regulations and all the policies and the FINRA and the self-regulatory organizations, they're all pulling the same direction. It's not beautiful, it's not perfect all the time, but it works. We're the envy of the world. We can replicate that with DLT. There's no reason why we can't lead the way again. And I'm not saying we should, not a monopoly, but we should lead the way with best practices. The U.S. financial markets are the envy of the world. The U.S. DLT markets should be the envy of the world.
And what should we do right now? If you take 2 action steps where you'd say that people could get involved, or what does the U.S. need to do at this point to remain at the forefront in technology?
So I think number one, I would say get involved. Get involved with the TBC. Get involved with your state.
Appreciate that.
Right, no, but
appreciate that
because I saw it. It's true. You got to get on board with the people who are leading the way, right? As Lee Iacocca said, 30 years ago, lead, follow, get out of the way. TBC is leading. Jump in, help define it. So become proactive, and then using that, go to your congressmen, go to your senators, go to the people on the Hill, and say, look, it's time. We need to get this done. It's a competitive issue for America. Go ahead and do that. I mean, so I think the goal is and get involved locally, and that means locally with organizations like TBC, and then get involved locally with your own congressmen and senators and tell them you want smart regulation today. You want policy that works today. You want to keep America competitive or North America competitive and drive forward.
And not drive it out into offshore.
Absolutely. Not sit around and wait for someone else to become more innovative and take the reins. So lead. We need to lead and continue our leadership role.
Now, talking about the leadership role, you had a great story for me on one of your classes from Georgetown As we diverge just a little bit
Okay,
here.
sure.
I want you to go through what you have on your desk, your understanding of the oldest technology,
sure.
the oldest
So-
technology when it comes
Right.
to finance.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite topics I love to teach on and lecture on and talk about, and I'll do it anywhere and everywhere, is fintech, the intersection of technology and financial services. And the same model applies in medical and technology, med tech or farm tech or biotech, but I'm focused on fintech. And a lot of my students will ask me, I'll give them the history, and one of the first truisms I tell them that I've already said here, technology always moves faster than policy and regulation. We talk about the efficiencies of fintech, and I'll get asked, all right, Professor Jacobs, when do you define the start of fintech? It's my opinion, and there's lots of ways to do it without history, but I look at the idea of the first coin, or when coins, and that wasn't one coin, it developed grassroots all over the world, different times, different ways. But I look at the coin because in the old days, you'd come to the market with some pigs and I'd come to the market with some cows. I'm in Texas, so I got cows. I come to the market with cows, and it's really hard to exchange those. I mean,
Because I want ducks.
Right,
You don't have ducks.
right. Or grain, or you want something else, right? So when the first coins came out, they really started creating a way, well, okay, I'll sell my pigs or my ducks for coins. I'll take those coins and I'll buy what I need in the way of beef, and I'll buy what I need in the way of grain and things like that. So I keep them, and I show it to the class. I've got a Roman coin from 348 AD, and it was a stamp that wasn't melted. It was stamped, so they stamped one side, stamped the other side, doesn't line up perfectly. And the metal of that, it was nothing special, but it represented the Roman Empire, and it was a store of value, and it has emperor, I can't remember which emperor it is on the front, I should know this, and he's on the back with two servants with him and things like this, and it represented a store of value. And I take that and I show them, and then the very first Bitcoin I ever got was a gift I received from the Chamber of Digital Commerce, the co-founders, Perry and Boyd and Matt Rosick, and they gave it to me as my Georgetown support of blockchain, et cetera. And it's a piece of artwork where someone took a Bitcoin and made it a piece of art. And I can't even put it in my wallet because I'd have to crack it open to do it. But the point is I show it to the students and say, 348 AD, and we're in 2023, and you're still seeing the value of having a token, whether it's a Roman token or whether it's a cryptocurrency. It's the same principle, is that you're trying to build efficient and effective markets, and you're trying to have a store of value and some exchange mechanism, and that's why I'm all in. So
it's an idea. It's an idea that gets transferred, and the coin represents the idea, and we agree upon it.
Yep.
You have Bitcoin, and it's the narrative around it.
Absolutely. Yep. It's going to keep happening. So
excellent. Well, John, thanks so much for stopping by. Where can people find you? What do they need to, if they want to reach out?
I'm on LinkedIn, jacobs.johnlee@gmail.com, but just track me down one way or the other. I'm always available. Or call Christopher and he'll get a hold of me. So
get us over it. Excellent. Thanks, John. I appreciate you stopping by.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out to the 2023 North American Blockchain Summit. It was the best summit yet. We look forward to hosting you again next year. If you enjoyed the summit or like what you saw in this video, be sure to subscribe. If you're interested in learning more about membership in the TBC, go to texasblockchaincouncil.org to learn more.